And welcome once again to training camp here in St. Joe, Missouri. Mitch Holthus with you, the voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. Special treat for you. Coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to hear from Wolfe, who will bring you that game, the preseason game on Saturday in Chicago on the Chiefs television network. But, Matt, it's day 12 here in camp of the 12th year that we've been in St. Joe at training camp, the 63rd training camp in Kansas City Chiefs franchise history. But it's interesting the way Andy Reid approaches the training. Now it's the 10th camp that I've watched him do this. He pushes, he backs off, and then he pushes again.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind that since the AFC Championship game until about 2 weeks ago, these guys had not been in pads at all. So during OTAs, mandatory minicamp, rookie minicamp, all that stuff, no pads. They're just in shorts. So eventually you have to start getting used to football activities, and that's what training camp is all about. We're on the stretch of 7 padded practices in 11 days right now, getting ready for that preseason opener on Saturday. So how do guys respond to that is the question. And you mentioned it, Coach Reid is the master at this because he'll have them practice in pads for 3 or 4 days in a row, then take a day. It's not a full day off. This was yesterday, but it's a practice where you still work on your mental reps, things like that, muscle memory. So when you go out there in the pads the next day, your body feels a bit better, but yet you still know exactly what you're doing. Coach Reid is the master of this. We've seen it time and time again. And I've been encouraged by how these guys are powering through this time. Not too hot today, but there have been some very hot days out here, and the pads aren't easy. So encouraged by that so far.
Yeah, and Andy studied these methods for years. Like, this isn't just something happen chance. He continues to tweak it a bit. But he's really got one of the best ways. It reminds me of an Olympic distance runner and how they train. And so Andy put in some more miles today with this team. Now, we're going to hear from Creed Humphrey in just a bit. But this camp, and you and I have watched this really closely, on the offensive side, we spent a lot of time talking about the defense, but let's talk offense here. Some unexpected offensive things have happened here. And let's start with ISIAH PACHECO, the 7th-round running back out of Rutgers University. He's getting a fair dose of rotations with the ones, like he did again today, and he'll be the kick returner to start the game on Saturday afternoon in Chicago. But ISIAH PACHECO has been one of the stories of this camp.
If you follow training camp closely, you know that Pacheco is the story of this camp so far. People are very excited about him, and for good reason. For starters, it's his unique blend of size and speed. I mean, he's 215 pounds, but runs a 4.37 40-yard dash. We talked about this a few live shows ago. That doesn't happen very often. The Chiefs haven't had this kind of running back since maybe Niall Davis several years ago. So very excited for what he can do in terms of his speed, but also his size. Has some things to work on, but Coach Reid mentioned a few days ago, he was asked, what do you know you already have in ISIAH PACHECO? And he said, listen, he needs to figure out how this playbook works, not just knowing the playbook, but how the plays counter each other, and also needs to learn how to be patient because he's very excited out there. But the one thing you always know with Pacheco is he's always going to run hard, and that's the most important thing with any young running back. He goes out there and has every carry like it's his last, and you mentioned it, he's the #1 kick returner right now on this team. We'll see him on Saturday as both a running back and a kick returner. Very excited for that.
Yeah, and he's like the rest of these rookies. I'm so impressed with their emotional and mental maturity. I know I keep saying that, but Pacheco's, and it's not been easy for ISIAH. He's lost some family members.
Dunlap's excited back here.
Yeah, is he? Well, I was excited about his play today, is that he makes a play at the goal line, and Chad Henne felt that play, thinking, I'm going to scramble for a touchdown. No, sir. Dunlap comes in the back porch, and it ends that. That's that. Another guy that I think bears watching would be Justin Watson, a wide receiver who came to the Chiefs as a free agent. Very productive time in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers. But you're going to be on the sideline Saturday. On the telecast. I'll be on the Chiefs Radio Network, largest radio network in the National Football League, but he will bear some discussion for the both of us.
One of the things I love about training camp is you and I have been watching this team since OTAs. So we're seeing some of these things in May, and finally all the fans can come see it out here during the summer. Justin Watson continually impressed throughout OTAs, particularly on special teams. And Coach Tobe was asked about that a few days ago, and he said that not all players like being on special teams. Some guys see special teams as some other thing they don't want to worry about, but Justin Watson attacks it like it's just as important as offense. And when you have players like that, and when you're trying to replace a lot of special teamers that are no longer here this year, guys like Armani Watts, Marcus Kemp, Dorian O'Daniel, Justin Watson can come in and be that guy right away. He takes his special teams responsibilities very seriously and also flashes on offense. So I think one of the unexpected things overall on offense for this camp isn't just the depth we knew about, guys like MVS and Juju and Sky Moore. It's the depth we maybe didn't know about, and Justin Watson certainly fits in that category.
Yep, and the running back room and the wide receiver room has more depth this year. At least it seems that way here in training camp. And before we let you go, I want to talk about the offensive line work of Andy Heck. Now, if Andy Reid is training this entire team like Olympic distance runner, for Andy Heck, every day is chem lab here. He does so much experimenting during camp. We've watched this for years. We've seen that again in this camp for sure yesterday, but just continue to moving guys around. Can he handle it? Can he play guard? Can he play tackle? Can the guard play center? Because let's look at it from a practical standpoint. On any given game for the Chiefs, whether they're playing Thursday, Monday, or Sunday, only 7 offensive linemen are active. 7. That means if someone think of the Cincinnati game last year when Yang goes down and Orlando Brown goes down, they're in emergency sequence, and Tooney has to play left tackle. Andy Heck prepares for that every day here.
ESPN a few days ago ranked who they projected to be the top offensive lines in the NFL. Unsurprisingly, the Chiefs were number 1, which is amazing considering the rebuild they've put together over the last year and a half. Calling it successful would be an understatement, I think. But that's not just because the top 5 guys are really good. It's because they're versatile. And being versatile doesn't mean I'm a really good right guard, so therefore I can play everywhere else, no problem. No, it's not how it works in the NFL. You have to work at it and have a certain focus at it and have a commitment toward it. And we see that in some of these dog days of training camp. Andrew Wiley is a great example. He's the starting right tackle on this team right now. He knew that coming into camp, but yet Coach Heck still finds times to work him at right guard. And Wiley a few days ago said that I knew I was the right tackle coming in, but during the offseason, I still worked on my guard technique, knowing at some point I might be needed as a guard. So that says a lot about Andrew Wiley. Some other guys, though, some depth guys that show that versatility are guys like Nick Allegretti, the ultimate Swiss Army knife on this offense. He can play really any spot along the offensive line. They prepare him to play every single spot along the offensive line, mostly center and guard, but I truly believe he could play tackle in a pinch if needed as well. Austin Ryder is a good example of this. We've seen this all offseason. Ryder is a center. He's been a center his entire career, but we've seen throughout this offseason and in this camp him working at both guard spots at times just to be ready for that kind of situation. And one name many fans maybe don't know about is Mike Caliendo out of Western Michigan, undrafted free agent signee. He's been really impressive this entire summer, and he's also worked at center and both guard spots, at times working with the second team. So excited to see him on Saturday against the Bears. But lots of versatility in this group. They're all really good. We know that, but they're also good because of how versatile they are.
Yeah, he made a big block today. He crushed a dude that got the crowd going. So Mike Caliendo is not shying away from anything at all. We're going to let you go. I love it when you get on these special projects.
Yeah.
Because you've been on several, and you're going
to
bring those alive, though, on Saturday. And one of those offensive line we'll also talk about on the Chiefs Radio Network. We're going to let you step aside a second because we're going to bring in Ari Wolfe. After we hear from the guy, no pun intended, who's the center of this conversation, Pro Football Focus rated Creed Humphrey the top-rated rookie of any position last year.
Number 1.
Any position, numero at the top of the list was Creed Humphrey, and he's bringing it in his second year. Just the way you guys have had to kind of work through and push through camp here, what have you guys done as an offensive line to keep grinding and moving forward?
Yeah, I think we've had a good few weeks so far in this camp. Everybody's coming in with the right mindset, trying to get better every day. We're working good as a unit together right now, and I'm excited to where we're at right now, and we're just going to keep building on it and keep improving every day.
I'm going to ask you a defensive question because it seems like the defensive front has gone up here. And how's that been, like iron sharpening iron?
It's been really good. Defensive guys have been playing their butts off this camp. It's been really fun competition every day. We're getting after, 9-on-7, things like that, blitz periods. So it's been really good. I think it's really good work for, not just the defensive line, but for us too. It's been really good.
I want to ask you, as an offensive line, coming into this camp, your discussions as a group in your room to say what has to happen to keep moving forward? Like, it's such an awesome rookie year, but as a group to move forward, what has to happen even now moving ahead?
Yeah, we just can't be satisfied with where we're at. We had a good year last year as a group, but we know there's a lot of things we can still improve on. So for us, it's really about picking out the things that we can improve on and focusing on those, and then letting our strengths become stronger and our weaknesses become strengths, things like that. But I think we're doing a good job of it right now. I feel like everybody's still working really hard, really wanting to improve their game every day, so it's been good.
The run game, where can it be this year, particularly with the guys that are running behind your blocks?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the running backs this camp. They've been working their tails off, been having some really good runs, so I'm excited for what they're bringing to the table this year. As far as up front, really it's just a mentality in the run game of moving your guy off the ball and creating lanes, and I think we can do a better job this year than we did last year on that. And I'm excited with the group we got. We got some guys who are real maulers on the group, so I'm really excited to see what we can do with that.
Final question, one of the more underrated things in this league is the communication that has to happen, like left to right, right to left, horizontal communication. Where is that right now with the offensive line and you being in the middle of that?
Yeah, I think it's going really good this camp. I think everybody, has a feel for each other now. We have, quite a few games under our belts together, so we kind of know what each other, like what we're seeing and all that. So I think the communication's been great so far. Obviously, we got to continue building on it and get better, but yeah, I like where we're at right now with it, and we're going to keep getting better with it.
And the trust factor, not only with you guys, but in that whole huddle and with Patrick.
Yeah, trust is huge for us. Obviously, when you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, probably the best quarterback in the league, it's easy to trust him. So, but yeah, trust is huge for us, and we're learning that every day. Just continuing to trust each other to do our jobs, things like that. So, I like where we're at with that too. It's been really good up to this point.
A beautiful Tuesday here in St. Joseph. Almost 3,000 fans watching this game. Watching this practice. Felt like a game at times as the team was back in pads. I'm now joined on set of our live stream. I talked about Andy Reid trying to prepare this team like an Olympic runner. This is a guy that's actually covered 2 Olympics himself. One of the most versatile and talented men in our business. Ari Wolfe, he will bring you the game on Saturday afternoon on the Chiefs Television Network. Your thought and your reaction and your excitement about this team and about Saturday afternoon.
Well, it's a magical time of year, right? It's all coming together. Watching these guys put in the work at camp and watching an Andy Reid camp is unlike any other camp. It's old school and new school, but I love that they come out here and you build that togetherness. You build that toughness. So just this time of year gets my juices flowing. The long wait for football is almost over. And I think Saturday there are some position battles. There are some things going on with this team. Andy has talked about the depth, how that's such a beautiful thing in this league. We're going to see some of that depth on Saturday and watch guys battle to try to make this roster. So I know for me and Trent and Matt will be with us, it's just exciting that football is back. And this Chiefs team, 4 straight AFC Championship games, all at home. The standard has been set, and it all starts Saturday.
You'll also see a very, very talented Kimmy Checks on this telecast on Saturday afternoon. But I want to ask you about the vibe here, because you can bring an outside-in perspective of the feeling around this team externally has been they're going to just fall off. They won the division 6 straight years, 9 straight winning seasons under Coach Reid, a Super Bowl championship, Super Bowl runner-up, and yet 4 straight AFC championship games hosting it. And yet the perception is say goodbye to these guys for a while. They're going to back up. What about that vibe and what you're sensing here?
Well, I think that's nonsense. I think if you look at the track record for Brett Veach and his staff, they have found ways to find talent. Late rounds, free agency, making it so this team, when it all put together, this team is going to be right where it needs to be. It's going to be battling for the top spot in the AFC West. They've won it 6 straight years. You got to believe that they, in my mind, are still the favorite. But I think the thing that is so unique about what Andy does here is it's about building togetherness, right? And I think getting away from your families, getting away from everything, coming out here, it's different than other camps. I've been fortunate to be at other camps. The way they do it here, not at the home facility, is unique. It's old school. And, one thing we know about Andy Reid, his attention to detail, right? And you see it with these guys. And when there are mistakes, it's teaching moments. And he has a way of building a team that's unlike anyone else. And, as far as I'm concerned, I'm biased. I think he's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches of all time. And I still feel like he's in his prime. The future is very bright right now for the Chiefs.
But you've been around Andy a while, and you covered him in Philadelphia.
Yep.
Did the preseason games there as well. How easy is it to take an Andy Reid for granted?
I think everybody does, because it's his consistency, right? His teams are always well coached. They're always tough. They always do the right things. And he's mild-mannered. He never points to himself. It's never about coach, right? It's always about everybody else. And even when things don't go well, he takes full responsibility for it. So it's a unique situation. I think when you look around at players that are free agents, you think, okay, where am I going? Well, Kansas City, you've got Andy Reid. He is such a strong leader. And I think we'd agree, great leadership leads to great things. And I think when you look at this organization from top to bottom, the spine of this franchise is really, really strong.
You had a chance to talk with Brett Veach. Now, it's interesting, this rookie class, I said you'd hire them all. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but every day you just get sold more on these guys. But you're talking about 4, 5, 6 guys who are going to have an impact week 1. You talked to Brett Veach. I thought it was interesting what he told you about the way he's been able to accumulate this young talent.
Well, the key word I took away, I've never heard a GM talk about we can afford to be patient. Normally GMs are feeling like, wow, I got to get this done right now or someone's going to change the nameplate on my door. So for Brett to feel like we've got the scouting, we've got the great coaching, so if we find guys in late rounds or undrafted guys, we have the tools to make those guys NFL impact players. And out of all the players we're going to see on Saturday, a 4th-round guy in Joshua Williams, I can't wait to see him out on the field, that you find a guy from a small school and that you bring him in and you believe you have the patience that you can take some time, develop this guy. They've done it before. They did it with Ward. We saw it with L'Jarius Sneed, another late-round guy. So, again, patience. You never hear a GM use that word, but I think they believe the core of the team, their foundational players are in place. They can afford to take guys that they think have huge upside, develop them, and keep this team at the top of the NFL.
And as of this moment, Joshua Williams out of Fayetteville State, Division II, is the #1 nickel corner. But not far behind is Jaylen Watson. Now, you cover the Pac-12, and you cover the Mountain West. So you cover a lot of Mountain and Pacific time zone college football. And you covered Trent McDuffie at the University of Washington. Those guys aren't far behind. I mean, McDuffie's starting right now. But just these young guys and the impact they could have.
Well, and also, you know, when does the light go on for a guy? You could look at Jaylen Watson at the beginning of his college career and think, okay, well, maybe this guy doesn't have the mental makeup to do all the things necessary to be a student athlete. He had to take a step back, went and found himself, goes to Washington State, puts together good film, gets himself drafted. It's another great example of, I think Andy Reid, unlike any other coach, really believes in second chances. We've seen him take some big risks, and they always work out. So some teams might have been afraid of a Jaylen Watson because he had the academic issues. But I think what he sees is he talks to the guys, Brett talks to him. You get a sense of what they are as a human being, right? Not just as a football player, not just the analytics. And then the belief that you've got the kind of organization that can lift somebody up. So I think Watson's a great story. It's a story of second chances, and hopefully this young man realizes this incredible opportunity and will make the most of it on Saturday.
It's so well spoken. And one example of that was out here helping on the sideline, Michael Vick. I mean, Coach is a Michael Vick fan. And he was a Michael Vick fan when it wasn't easy to be a Michael Vick fan. And you know how Mike is going to change things around in his life. So it's a great point. Andy does have an affinity for those guys that give them a chance to reclimate things. Before we let you go, your thoughts on the wide receiver core, because it's one of the more asked questions externally and internally. But this wide receiver core, and how big is it for them Saturday to show some pop?
Well, I think so. You want to see, I think the fans would like to see Juju have a big game, right? Flash a little bit at least. But I think when we look at this receiving core, it's really the total group, right? It may not be just one guy who is the main guy, right? I think they're going to be guys who are going to get chances. I think Sky Moore is a very interesting player. Can't wait to see him on the field. You know, a lot of the numbers are good on him, but the thing I like about him, he's got that little shake to him. And I want to see that shake against an NFL cornerback. So I think that there are a lot of guys at the receiver position. And when you look at Valdez-Scantling, this guy's a big, big play guy. I mean, he can go throw that ball down the field, and great things are going to happen. So I think they've done a great job of putting together a unit, but then seeing them all together, see how the pieces fit together, that's what makes the preseason so much fun.
And Valdez-Scantling made one of his better plays of camp today in the red zone, tiptoeing with a catch on a sprint out from Patrick Mahomes. Touchdown, Kansas City, MVS. It is always awesome to see you tear him up on Saturday. Again, one of the most talented and versatile broadcasters on the planet in Ari Wolfe. Now, we're going to let you go, Ari. We're going to bring Matt back. But before we do, you talk about some shake and shimmy. Chris Jones has been one of the stories of this camp. He is bringing it every day. He had another sack again today in the red zone. What has happened to Chris Jones? Let's look and listen.
What about the push now at camp, especially over these last couple of days when you guys are in pads and the heat and the way that you defensively push through it?
You know, as a defensive whole, I think it builds character, especially playing in this type of weather. Isolated, you know, I feel like we're back in college, and it builds character on this defense, especially dealing with the adversity. So I think it's good for us overall as a defense and most importantly as a team.
Personal question. You have been almost impossible to block in this camp. It's been exciting to watch you. What has happened? Tell us about your off season and how you got to this point, and it's like it's every day you're doing something big time.
You know, it's all about striving from day to day, and my main goal was to make sure I come up here and set the standard for the younger guys and for this defensive line. You know, we go back to the last game we played, AFC championship. You know, we left a lot of opportunities on the field as a defensive line, so you know, I'm imposing my will to make sure that we seize the moment this time.
The rest of your guys around you, Derek, Turk, going down the line with the other guys, what do you have around you that helps you?
Overall, you know, we look at the roster. We got Tershawn Wharton, who's coming along. He's continued to get better every year. And we was able to bring a veteran guy, Derek Nottie, back, who's known this defense, who's been a plug in this defense. Colin Sanders, who was a young guy, but he shows great strides. And Frank Clark, the Shark, you know what I mean? And we was able to get us a first-round draft pick and George Karlaftis, and it's been special, especially with Joe Cullen. You know, he's came in, changed the dynamic of the defensive line group, got guys playing better than ever, and you know, it starts with the leadership in the room. It starts with the leadership, and I feel like now our chemistry is building. We continue to stack days on days, man, and we'll see where it goes.
It's been very apparent. Now, last question. What's the ceiling for this defense? Where can it be? Where can it go?
There's no ceiling. When you start to put ceilings on things, you kind of cap yourself off. I feel like there's no ceiling. There's no expectation. Just get 1% better every day. That's what we try to do. That's what we try to do. And continue building. You know, every day is a challenge, whether it's heat, whether it's the mind, whether it's the body. You know, every day is you face a little adversity, and that's the pivot of this defense. We continue to push through adversity, continue to push each other to be better, and we're going to continue to get 1% better each day.
Yeah, what a blessing to have Ari Wolfe here with us today, but also to be on these preseason telecasts. What a blessing it is to bring Matt Stat back, too, senior team reporter Matt McMullen. And I know you're on a special assignment. Now we brought you back. This is where the pivot kind of turns after this practice.
Yeah.
Because there was no thought of Chicago. There's no thought of the preseason game Saturday afternoon. That changes after this practice. And so now the compass and the GPS gets pointed to Soldier Field Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, well, think about this process. It began way back in April when Patrick Mahomes got the offense together down in Texas for informal workouts, right? Just getting timing down, fundamentals, things like that. Continued in OTAs and in minicamp in May and in June, and we've seen it the last 2 weeks here in St. Joe during training camp. But that entire process never occurred against an actual opponent. And how do you get better in the long run, and how do you evaluate the bubble guys on this roster? It's against actual competition. We can only get so much done in practice. And yeah, it's a preseason game. It doesn't matter in terms of the wins and losses, but the evaluation worth for the Chiefs here is huge because there's a lot of guys fighting for roster spots. And this is when you find out who's going to make the team is in these preseason games. Again, it's just an exhibition game. It doesn't matter in terms of the standings. But for the guys fighting for this roster, there's going to be 5 roster cuts after this game. Yeah. So for the guys on the bubble, this is their Super Bowl. They have to go out there and give it everything they have, and you'll see that throughout Saturday.
Yeah, this year, now kind of back to pre-COVID days, but they've really changed the cut days down, and those 5 cuts are coming after this game. That's a little bit of a new wrinkle. I'm glad you brought it up. But one of the things on the checklist here, we heard from Chris Jones, and you and I with Chris and Frank, honestly, the way they've approached this camp, they would play every snap of this game and not complain about it. We know they'll be out there for maybe a few snaps, but still just to see the energy that they bring. But I want to see if this kind of pop and sizz that we sense in this defense can carry over to Saturday afternoon, and not just the guys who start the game, but all the way through 4 quarters.
One thing I'm really excited about from the last 2 weeks of this camp, and really the whole offseason program, when we've gotten to know these young defenders on this team, the new faces on defense, is how excited they are to be on this defense and to prove something, how hungry they are. And that extends to guys like Chris and Frank, who have been around a long time, but their energy in this camp has been ridiculous. They usually have a lot of energy, but this is the most I've ever seen from them, ever. And the fact that that combines with all of the new young, exciting energy from these new guys that we have, guys like Justin Reed, second-year players like Nick Bolton, who are really establishing themselves as leaders on this team. A guy like Juan Thornhill, who's been around a while but really feels empowered now to be a leader on this team. It permeates throughout the entire group. And one phrase has stuck with me throughout: attitude defense. Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, Chris Jones, everyone, whenever you ask them about this defense and what they want to be, they say we want to be an attitude defense. What does that mean? That means that the offense, whenever they're out there, they know the defense is going to bring it every single play. And there's going to be growing pains. It's going to take time. We have a lot of young players on this defense, but it starts with a mentality, and you want to see that in game action as well, even if the game doesn't count in the standings. So looking for that attitude defense hopefully on Saturday.
Yeah, and if you can before the game, and don't sleep on these preseason games. I know you can't play fantasy football with them, but I don't know what you got going on Saturday afternoon, and you don't have to be nerded out to do this. Just follow this, and even following the game on our television network or on radio. We'll go down a checklist and talk about guys. The second thing, as we close, would be how the rookies respond. You and I are both excited about these guys, not just the draft picks. We've mentioned him. But free agents. You mentioned Mike Caliendo. He'll wear number 66. Jack Cochran out of South Dakota, an undrafted free agent linebacker. How will he react? Think about a guy like Mike Rose, who a lot of Iowa State fans know about. How will he be in this game against Chicago? Let's go back to when Ben Neiman had a pick six in the preseason against Atlanta. That set up Ben Neiman to make the team and make significant plays to get this team to a Super Bowl championship. Just don't sleep on this game, and just follow it all the way through and follow it. Just download the roster and just follow us here, because it'll make it a fun afternoon.
A good example from last year is Darius Fountain, a wide receiver. He made this team because of what he did in the preseason. If you're a football nerd like us, the preseason is a ton of fun because you see players that you've heard all summer about actually playing in a game. And the reality is some players are better in practice. Some guys look the part in practice, but they get out there in a game and you can tell, this isn't for them. That's what you want to find out in these games. It's the ultimate evaluation period. It's an extension of training camp. We're just playing a different team, and we're doing it on an actual broadcast, and it feels like a real football game. So great opportunity for the young players on this roster. I know they're excited about this. It's a great chance for them to go out there and prove they belong. So we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Again, like last year, Derek Gore might have been the MVP of the preseason, or Shane Buechele, his great rally on the road against San Francisco. Or go back 2 years when you saw Turk Wharton at a Missouri S&T, an undrafted player, emerge, and now he's a staple on this team. Going to be fun, man. I'm ready. Matt McMullen, senior team reporter, thanks to Ari Wolfe and Trent Green. We'll bring in the game, and also Kimmy Checks will be down on the sideline. You can follow us as well on the Chiefs Radio Network, the largest network now in the National Football League, when Dane and Hughes will join me along with Josh Klingler. But it's time now to play preseason football. Thanks for joining us on this live stream from here at Missouri Western State University in St. Joe.